by David Michaels and Jordan Barab, published by Time magazine, titled "We Ran OSHA, Here's the Truth About So-Called Vaccine Mandate." A letter from James Goodwin, the senior policy analyst at the Center for Progressive Reform. A letter from Martha Kinsella, senior counsel at the Brennan Center for Justice's Democracy Program. The Brennan Center's National Task Force on Rule of Law and Democracy's Proposals for Reform, Volume 2. So ordered. I now recognize the gentlelady from Indiana, Ms. Spartz, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we talk a lot about corporations here and hiring scientists. I think scientists hired by government are also not less biased, because every scientist, every project I've seen, every report and study usually always pleases the payer. Every government study always yields the result that the government asks them to yield. So I would not really give too much credibility to government-paid studies or a lot of universities where if you want to actually get tenure, if you not publish your work within the small group of people that have their own views, you're probably not going to get a tenure. So there is a lot of subjectivity. And honestly, if you look about, we're replacing right now the really liability with unenforceable regulations, where most of them should be decided in the court of law and not given so much immunity. A lot of it was always joking, a lot of this attorney will be out of business if we continue giving these unlimited immunities. But my question is just a quick question I have for Dr. Mascott. You're a professor of law. I am just an accounting, but when I look at the level of regulation and executive orders that have been expanded to the level, unbelievable, I was shocked to see that actually Congress doesn't have a streamlined process to deal with executive orders, and Congressional Review Act is not applying. So we streamline at least somewhat to look at regulations. Do you believe we need to really do a better job to see how we can deal more effectively with executive orders?
I do think that executive orders at times are being used in ways that they were not originally intended. I mean, the intent of the executive order, of course, is for the president to be able to oversee the executive branch. I think the fundamental problem is that Congress needs to take a greater share of the policymaking power, delegate narrower areas of authority with more detail, and then there would not be as much of an area of discretion within which the executive order would operate.
So just generally, if we make our law less ambiguous, which I really love it, attorneys don't, but I do, so that would help. But is there anything that for us to really to oversee and streamline the process if we do believe that president, and regardless who it is, Republican or Democrat president, overstep in his authority?
I mean, I certainly think in areas of laws, and just start subject matter by subject matter where it's causing the greatest concern, whether it's now with the pandemic or whatever, for Congress to exercise its policy will, and that could be through constraining what the executive, including by executive order, is able to do in areas of domestic policy.
So just define a little bit better what they can do.
Absolutely,
Okay.
much better, yes.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I yielded my time to Mr. Johnson of Louisiana.
Thanks so